Amazon and Barnes & Noble, but the quickest way to get it is to order it directly from us because some of those places take like 5 weeks before we even know who ordered anything.
Okay. What is your favorite horror movie of all time, and what is your least favorite?
Well, I would say that my favorite horror movie has got to be one from the Friday the 13th. Probably Friday the 13th Part 2, where we first see Jason with the nice pillowcase on his head. And even number 3 I thought was good when he first got his hockey mask from the, I forget his name, but that's when he first got his hockey mask was number 3. A lot of people don't realize that that's when he actually got it. And that one was in 3D. That was another movie that I saw twice. I went in and saw it, and then I walked out of the movie theater, and then I snuck back in and saw it again. So you could do that back then. Now it's more difficult, but that was in 3D. I remember when that first came out. My least, I think the remake that they did of House of Wax, I think it was with Paris Hilton. They're in that one. That one was just wrong, or I just didn't like that one at all. I thought the original was so much better.
That's completely understandable.
Yeah.
And speaking of remakes, there's obviously a new Scream movie in the trilogy. What are your thoughts on Screams 1, 2, and 3, and now the idea of beginning a 4th? Well, it's very difficult because when you look back at all the sequels, like the Halloweens and the Nightmare on Elm Streets and the Friday the 13th, they've been able to do well as the progression of the story, but the problem is that I think the 4th Scream, I think that they've kind of run out of ideas because when you're looking at, Sidney Prescott and her mother and, how many times can you go back to that well, I thought the first one was excellent. I thought Wes Craven did a fabulous job, who I'm trying to interview for the magazine, by the way, and I came close with the Nightmare on Elm Street remake in 2010, but he was busy. But that one, the first 2 were really good. The third one was a little bit borderline, difficult to believe. But in the 4th one, I don't know. I just got to see how they write it. I mean, it's all going to be on how they write it, what they're going to do with it. Okay, and same with Saw. What's your thought on the Saw trilogy? And then if you've seen first of all, have you seen the new Saw 3D?
No, I have not seen the new 3D, but I want to go see that one. And I generally wait for the Saws in DVD when they come out because I saw the first 3, and the third one kind of was like, it's kind of becoming the same thing. I actually met Shawnee Smith in WonderCon last year and had a chance to talk with her a little bit about her role in the Saw movies. And even her interview, she seemed a little bit bored with them. When I was talking to her about him, it was almost just like I think she was glad she didn't do the last one because she seemed a little bit bored. And it's another series that I think that they've taken it as far as they could go. I don't know if you could keep taking it any further than that.
Okay.
Okay. And what are your same thoughts on the Paranormal Activity series from 1 and 2? Have you seen the second one?
Oh, I didn't see the second one, but I laughed so hard during the first one. I thought that was hilarious, which I think a good horror movie should be funny. I always take over what Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper says. The more gore, the funnier it gets. That's why I think Rob Zombie, when he does like the Devil's Rejects and the makeups of the Halloween, I mean, it's just so much more comedic. And I think that the Paranormal one was just so funny. I saw all 3 endings. All 3 alternate endings in the first one. Haven't had a chance to see the second one yet, but I think Blair Witch started it, and and it's good that you don't have named actors and you just try to have it as this is real. But I thought the first one was good, and it was hilarious. I cracked up.
Okay, and another thing, just from horror movies over the years, what are your thoughts on how horror movies have progressed? I guess from the Halloweens and the Friday the 13th of old to more of the Saws and movies of this generation. How do you think things have changed? Do you think horror movies have become a lot more dependent on gore?
I think they have. I think the good things about the Halloweens and the Nightmare on Elm Streets and the older ones back in the late 70s, early 80s, what scared you was what you didn't see and what was anticipated to come and might have come and did not, and maybe what didn't come. Where today's day and age, they really don't have that that anticipation because they kind of show you everything, and then they just show it as gory as they can, and I think that takes away from the writing of a horror movie, which should be to have people scared and have people jump into the arms of their date and just scream and freak out and turn their heads. Where I think today's day and age, I think it's more comedic with the horror movies because they don't leave a lot to chance. I mean how often when you were watching Friday the 13th and whatnot did that cat jump out of the screen and scare the hell out of you? It was always a cat. There was a cat in all those movies that jumped out and scares you. Well, now the cat's just cooking in the boiler, and they've just cooked the cat. They don't even bring the cat out anymore. So it's one of those things.
Well, what are some underrated horror films that you would recommend for people to go see, and why should they see it?
Like right now?
Or now or back in the day?
Well, I mean, I would definitely. I mean, everyone's probably seen the Halloweens and whatnot, but there's some good ones here, which is. I think House on Haunted Hill, the original, and the newer one, I think is very well done. I think 13 Ghosts is good. I think that's a good movie because that's a little bit on the different side of horror. So I like 13 Ghosts. I would have to say, boy, there's so many of them. Those are probably one of my two. I mean, those are probably one of my two favorites that a lot of people might not know about. Even the original Waxwork, I think that was probably in the late '80s, early '90s, was a very good one. And like I said, the original House of Wax was also was funny. The ones that also cracked me up, if people like to laugh, was the original Leprechauns. The original Leprechaun series was funny. He was hilarious, that little leprechaun, and like Child's Play. When you can have a villain that makes you laugh and then goes and then cuts the head off somebody, I mean, that's got to be good. I mean, how can that not be good?
Okay. And, some of the, some other horror movies out there include a movie we actually reviewed last week. Have you seen The Strangers?
No, I've not seen The Strangers. I didn't even know about that one. I have been going on Netflix and watching a lot of those older ones. Or the ones that people don't know about, so I've been trying to catch myself up on those. But I'm curious to see the new Thing that's coming out. That should be really good.
Oh yeah, that should be. And have you seen Misery?
Oh, with Stephen King, absolutely, 100 times.
Yes.
Read the book, saw the movie, loved it. That was the best account of a book that they've ever made into a movie, without a doubt, one of his. Are there any other movies that come to mind, that originally started as a book that you really enjoyed as it transitioned into a film? There was one that Clive Barker did, and was it something with The Illusionist? Do you remember which one that was? It was a book that he wrote, something with The Illusionist. And I can't remember, but if you go on Clive Barker, you'll know it when you see it. But it has something to do with The Illusionist. That was an extremely well done book to movie because he was involved with it, which is always good when the author can get involved with that. But there's been mainly a lot of short stories. I mean, Stephen King did a lot of short stories with Graveyard Shift, which he did a lot of those little things. Even Secret Window was a short story, and I don't know if you would consider that horror, but I guess it just depends on what your idea of horror is. Is horror gory, or is horror the serial killer, aspect? So I guess it just kind of depends. But there haven't been a lot. That's the problem. There haven't been a lot of authors to get books to make them into movies. I think that's a shame, just because I think Hollywood doesn't know what to do anymore, which is also a shame.
Mm-hmm. What is your thoughts on horror movies that are based off urban legends or true stories such as Amityville Horror and the Blair Witch Project?
What was the first part of the question?
Make better movies? What is your opinion on horror movies that are based on urban legends or true life events? Do you think that's adds more suspense to it because people will know that, okay, this is based off something that actually happened or something they've heard repeatedly since they were children.
Yeah, I